Hi everyone, Monsieur Valois here, and today I'm going to give you, the student, the tools for how to best succeed in your IB Language B Standard Level Internal Assessment, the individual oral. We're going to look at a variety of strategies and a sample visual stimulus and show you how you can best succeed. Also, if you want a deeper review of the expectations and criteria for evaluation, please click on the card above and check out the IB Language B SL Guide breakdown. Alright, let's get our feet wet. It's 2021 and the IB has made some accommodations for our internal assessment. So you, the student, will be presented with a choice between 5 visual stimuli and not just 2. So choose one of these 5 visual stimuli, the one that you feel you will be most successful in. Once you've chosen, you'll have 15 minutes to prepare your notes to prepare for the oral, which consists of Part 1, the presentation. Make it happen. You have 3 to 4 minutes to give your description and interpretation of the visual stimulus you chose. Part 2, the follow-up discussion. Your teacher will lead the 4 to 5 minute discussion and ask you more about the stimulus and the course theme. Part 3, the general discussion. The teacher will lead a discussion on at least one other course theme from the course's 5 themes, and this will last 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, before checking out the visual stimulus, let's visit some strategies for you to best prepare for Part 1, presentation. For the presentation, you'll be evaluated on the following criteria. A, language. Make sure you have a varied vocabulary, your sentence structure is on point, and you have good pronunciation and intonation. B1, the message. You have good descriptions and good interpretations of the visual stimulus, and you reference the target culture and course theme. And C, interactive skills. You are consistently speaking in the target language, you're demonstrating comprehension, and your speaking is sustained. Alright, so for the tips, first and foremost, most importantly, make sure you are in your best mental and relaxed state the day of the exam. That means getting some good sleep, no late night cramming, drinking water, stretching, meditation, whatever makes you feel like you're at your best. Now here are some strategies for interpreting the visual stimulus. So you need to be able to describe what you see in this image, and adjectives often help us do that. So let's think of colors that you see in the image. Think of the sizes of objects or people in there. What is the weather like? Can you describe the general atmosphere, mood, or the vibe that's taking place in the image? So you might want to consider finding a list of the most common adjectives in your target language. They could be about big, small, fast, slow, close, far, happy, sad, and so on. Also for descriptions, know your place prepositions. These will help you enhance and be more specific about what you're trying to describe. Example, on this bench, or under the bridge, behind the woman, in front of the entrance, next to the flowers, to the left, to the right of the policeman. For your interpretations, make sure you know how to conjugate verbs that you can use to describe and interpret. Some examples could include, in this image, there is or there are. This person appears to be. It looks like, it seems to me that, we can see or I can see. These prompts will give you the tools you need to describe and interpret. Also, you need to consider the perspective shown in the image. What's in the foreground? What's in the middle ground? What's in the background? Know how to say these words in your target language. So for instance, in the middle ground, there are. In the background, I noticed. Also, links with your target culture. Hopefully this won't be too difficult, but even if you think you don't have the ideal stimulus, try your best to make a link between anything you see in the image and the culture you've studied. My strategy is think of cultural activities and experiences from your target culture, and don't think that your ideas aren't good enough to make the connection. Make that effort to make the connection, and that's how you'll get your best score. Alright, so let's say you've chosen your visual stimulus and you have 15 minutes to start preparing your notes. If you are confident in your ability to describe the visual stimulus, don't use up your notes putting in too many details because you can only have a maximum of 10 bullet points. Save your notes to string together those special sentences that you don't want to forget, and use the remaining time to check your grammar and structure and practice pronouncing them out loud to get your speaking warmed up. As a reminder, some of these sentences should be focused on connections between the course unit and the image, or between the image and the target culture. Also, don't forget to breathe. All right, everyone, we've made it, and we are here, and so is our sample visual stimulus. I'm going to use an example of a stimulus that I could use in my IB French standard level course, but regardless of the language studied, the strategies I've shared are universal. So let's try this out. If you want to simulate the exam, set up a timer for 15 minutes, press pause, and we'll write a maximum of 10 bullet point notes to simulate the internal assessment. We'll see you back soon. All right, now that you have prepared the notes for your presentation, press pause again and set up a stopwatch for 3 to 4 minutes and begin to present. Good luck. So unfortunately, I can't just jump out of this YouTube video and listen to your presentation and give you feedback, but the least I can do is put some of these tips I threw out there earlier into action. I'm going to start my stopwatch now, and here we go. In the image I have chosen, we can see that there is what appears to be a wealthy intergenerational family celebrating a special occasion together. And they're interacting with the computer, waving to it. Most probably they're having a video call with their family or their friends. In the image I can see there are 4 people, perhaps a grandmother, perhaps a young couple, a man and a woman, and what looks to be like their daughter, and they're all participating in this call. There is food on the table. It could be a special occasion because it looks like there is a turkey, a roast turkey that is on a wooden plank with some vegetables. We have some orange juice in a jar and a couple glasses. On the plates we can see that there is salad, and there's a basket of fruit with some tangerines, pears, and apples. The table has a white tablecloth, and there's a lot of white in this image. The chairs are also white. The background through the windows looks like a sunny day. There's lots of white as well. The people in the image appear to be happy. The lady has long hair and she's wearing a gray sweater with a white top underneath. The daughter has a pink top on as well, and the man is wearing a gray shirt, and the grandmother to the right is wearing a blue sweater with a white top on as well. I can see that on the table is where there's most of the food that's placed, and behind the couple, or behind the family, there are a couple plants, and also seems to be that there is a building in the background that we can observe through the window. So in the foreground, I can see that there's a computer to which they're talking to. In the middle ground, we have all the food and the people, and in the background, the window, the plants, and the buildings. Now, to link this to the target culture, this family appears to be celebrating a special holiday or occasion, which are prevalent in many cultures. In the target culture I've been studying, say French culture, there are a number of important holidays and family occasions that are regularly celebrated. For instance, in Quebec, families come together to celebrate occasions like Easter, Christmas, and even Canadian Thanksgiving. Perhaps this is a Canadian Thanksgiving being celebrated. Also, I can see that there is only one child. Perhaps this family is a family that's typical of industrialized French-speaking nations like Belgium or Switzerland or France, due to a declining birth rate there. The course theme is human ingenuity, and I can see that that's present in that they're using computer technology as a means to communicate with friends or family who could not be in attendance, perhaps because of distance or because of the pandemic. And the role of technology, especially video conferencing and remote working, has increased in importance dramatically since the onset of the pandemic in March 2020. I can also imagine that there's wireless internet that has allowed this family and us to be able to connect and erode distances and make home office possible, resulting in the continuity of the economy. And lastly, there have been many adverse consequences as a result, such as prolonged screen time, increased dependency on technology, and a rise in greenhouse gas emissions as we've had to build and maintain servers. And I'm done. All right, how did you do? Had you considered using some of these points that I brought up earlier? Let's get into part 2, the follow-up discussion. Now comes the time for a little Q&A between you and me, the teacher. I'll be asking you questions on what you just presented for you to clarify, and about the course theme in general, and this will last about 4 to 5 minutes. Here, you're going to be evaluated on language again, also on B2, message, so that your responses are relevant, they're broad in depth and scope, and you've engaged me, the teacher. Don't forget to ask me questions. You'll also be evaluated on C, interactive skills. During this part 2, I could ask you questions specifically about the stimulus, such as, you mentioned that this seems to be a wealthier family. What do you see in the image that confirms that? Or I could ask you, you mentioned you think this looks like a holiday or a special occasion. What makes you so sure? Can you elaborate some more? The teacher will also ask you questions related to the course theme, human ingenuity. Here are a few examples. To what extent has technology, specifically video conferencing, played a role in your home since the onset of the pandemic? What role do you believe video conferencing will play once stay-at-home measures become more relaxed? Or I could also ask you, is human creativity positively or negatively affected by video conferencing? Explain your answer by drawing on a few real-life examples. So as I mentioned quickly before, do not forget to ask me questions during this discussion. Sometimes my students struggle and they say, well, I don't know what I should be asking you. I always say, this is supposed to be a conversation, back and forth. So as you would do with your friends or family, ask me for my opinion or my thoughts on a question that I just asked you. Simply asking, and you, Mr. Valois, what do you think about this? Is a great way to get me involved and improve your mark for criteria on B2. My last very important tip has to deal with hesitation. Students, it's normal to feel nervous and to feel the need to keep on talking even though you've already answered the question. So make sure that whatever you're saying during your IA adds value to it, always. There's nothing wrong with ending your answer and expecting your teacher to ask you the next questions. Okay, now we're at part 3, the general discussion. And at this point, we're no longer dealing with the visual stimulus. I could ask you a variety of questions from any of the other 4 course themes studied during the year. Here you'll be evaluated on A, language, B2, message, and C, interactive skills. For a little help, on page 19 of the SL guide, there are some very broad questions that relate to each unit that could be asked to you during this discussion. However, expect that these questions may become a little bit more narrow or specific from your teacher to you. So for instance, I could say, we're going to be discussing the course theme, sharing the planet. Student, what can you do today to help make the world a better place? Or I could ask you, let's talk about social organization. What role does your target language play in society and in the world? Take a look at these questions here on page 19, and I think you could become better placed to succeed. A final recommendation for part 3, in the weeks before your internal assessment, prepare a document in which you include 30 to 40 vocabulary words related to each of these themes. This will help you become more versatile and improve your score on criteria on A, language. All right, everyone, that's it. I hope this was helpful. If you gained something out of this, please give me a thumbs up at the bottom or subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for listening and wishing you the very best on your internal assessment. Just remember, you got this.